What are the most important things in life? I think that could depend on who you're talking to. Some people might say it's one thing, some people might say it's another, and another person would say it's something else. As far as I can tell, though, the thing that I think is the most important, if not attended to, creates a life of distortion and unhappiness and dissipated energy and confusion and pain. It creates the life that most of us live and we think is just what life is, and so we're numb to it. So basically, the most important thing in life is simple daily living. I believe it is that simple and that complex. If my own life is in order, and you could find this in a lot of places, but if my own life is in order, the rest of living becomes orderly. What I mean by that, a lot of people will try and fix what's out there without seeing that what's out there is related to what's in here. My life, the world, since society can't get any better if I don't take responsibility. And not in a blaming kind of way, not in a harsh, it's your fault kind of way, but at the same time, in many ways, respectfully, there are things going on in one's life that they do have the capacity to take control of. Now, there are many things that you can't take control of. I'm very aware of that. But I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the things that people can take control of, can take responsibility for, but they never do. It seems like we just get more and more tied into how the world is getting worse. And so many people are blaming outside forces. But society is made up of bricks, and the individual, we are the bricks. So if we're not made well, so to speak, society will crumble necessarily. And one of the fundamental things that we consistently get wrong about our daily living, or I would say two of the fundamental things, is sexual energy and our eating habits. And I'm not a scientist, so I won't be able to break it down like that. But the dissipation of sexual energy changes everything. What could have been a vibrant life turns into a very abysmal situation. I used to deal with a lot of mental health issues, and I tried a lot of things to try and fix that. Pretty much everything you could think of that the culture would prescribe, I tried it. And the only things that really worked for me is questioning my relationship to sex and changing my eating habits. Consistent ejaculation truly messes up the physiology of anyone born male. It truly does. There's no question about it. The science is there, the anecdotal evidence is there. And even if for some who may be more sensitive to the loss are very aware of it, maybe for some it's not that obvious, and they live with this sort of numb, but life kind of goes on and life seems fine. And if that works for you, it works for you. But I doubt anyone who's ever retained sexual energy would ever say that, truly retained for an extended period of time, months, years, would ever say that consistently dissipating that energy feels the same as retaining it. No one would. I'm pretty freaking confident and no one would say that. And it's not just a retention of that energy, but it's also the way one thinks about sex. Have you ever thought, why are we so conditioned to want to have sex all the time? And one might say, well, I have the urges to have sex all the time. I have the urges, so it's natural, it's nature. And I wonder if that's true. I wonder if it's more the fact that we've been conditioned to stimulate that part of the body and therefore yearn for it. Is it that you're just naturally aroused and horny, or is this state of being, has it been conditioned by your habits, by the culture, which aren't necessarily related? And that stimulation is now a part of your circuitry, it's a part of the way your body works. But is that the way it has to? And no one's going to question that unless they can viscerally feel the issues in their life. Because a lot of people numb themselves to the issues in their life. The drinking, the eating fast food, the binging shows, the, seeking validation from peers and always going out and, different ways people numb themselves. But for some reason, I haven't been able to do that sufficiently. I've tried in many ways, but I haven't been able to sufficiently numb myself to the visceral pain. And luckily, I've come out of the other side of that, noticing that sorrow, that deep pain that I used to feel was necessarily related to the dissipated sexual energy. That energy can be used it must be used in your life. Life needs that energy. The organism needs that energy to do anything. The sex impulse is literally the momentum to move forward in the way that this organism will naturally flower into its mode of forwardness, if that makes sense. It's not about trying to move forward or trying to get anywhere, but like making these videos, this has naturally arisen out of protecting this energy. I got to a point where I noticed, I was like, okay, this is imperative. So I'm not going to worry about goals, dreams. I'm going to keep living my life, and I'm going to put all my energy into maintaining this. Because I'd been on streaks before and I'd seen differences, but then I would relapse and blah, blah, blah. But I got to a place where I was like, okay, this is what's important. If I can get over that hump and get to that space where I'm just now living, and I'm not trying to retain energy, but it's just natural, from there, things are going to change. I could tell from past experiences, things are just going to start changing. My behaviors, how I interact with people, the things I do when I have time, like making videos versus sleeping in all day or whatever. So I attended to that. And now, after getting over that hump, because when you first try and stop, the urges are still there. You actually do, that's what I would call, that's the 10% of willpower that you need to get you through that, those 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is. But then to me, 90% is the seeing of that damage. If I use 100% will, I'm in conflict with what I wanted, an abstract ideal about abstinence and celibacy, versus the actuality of my physiology, being aroused, being interested, seeing sex as something that would do me good. Because that's what we're conditioned. We're conditioned to think the acquisition and fulfillment of sex will be ultimately fulfilling for my life, to satisfy that urge. Life is worth it and amazing, and that's what we're conditioned. But in actuality, when you look at it, not just in your own life, but in the world, that's not the case. Why are so many people getting together and breaking up? What happened to, like, bonds, like real bonds with people? And not even just sexual, but just what happened to bonding? People hook up, use each other like objects, claim love, maybe they get married, and they fall apart sooner or later. And why is that so common? Why is divorce and why are relationship issues so common? There's too many variables, right? If you think about it, there's too many variables, there's too many cultures, there's too many perspectives, there's too many different things that could occur within a relationship that can make it crumble. So what's the fundamental tethering? See what I'm saying? The fundamental tethering across peoples is sex. Why have we been conditioned to think that this thing is what's going to keep us together when it's obviously the thing that makes us disrespect each other and go further and further apart? But not many people are willing to question that, because to get rid of sex outside of procreation seems to be some sort of hindrance on one's freedom. But what are we free to do but bicker and comfort each other with foods and compliments until that's not enough, and then we break up? Why is that the pattern, and why don't enough people see that maybe there's something amazing that could build between us if we didn't use each other as objects? Because that's all we're doing. We're using that person's body to masturbate our own body. And in between that, we cuddle and we eat food and we console each other and comfort each other. And maybe that's not wrong. Maybe that's not whatever. But as far as I can tell, that's all people are doing in these relationships nowadays, is comforting each other. It's just comforting each other. Sex and comfort. And what else? I mean, the strongest bonds have to have more than that. They would have to have more than that. And so it turns into a question of wondering why you should spend so much energy yearning for a partner if in your own life you are doing things that are dissipating and harmful. What's interesting is, at least for men, and I'd really be interested in women's perspective on retention of sexual energy, but for men, when you really start questioning sex and start desexualizing the mind, you don't really care about relationships. And that's when you actually start getting more attention. That's when you actually start appearing more, not just appearing, but behaving more confidently in life and in situations. And when you come across a guy or a girl or whatever, that's when you actually start being the person people are attracted to. But when you really care about it, and that's what you want, and you watch porn, and you and you yearn for a partner and all that stuff like that, that's the stuff that makes you unattractive, no matter how hard you try. But it's like, as soon as you retain that energy and you stop caring, the world opens up. Because that's what, for some reason, the world needs. It needs a guy, needs that. And I'm not claiming to know fundamentally what masculinity is at all, but there's an aspect of masculinity that is confident and does not care, but also cares very much. It's that weird paradox that it holds up to be true. He both cares not at all and cares a whole hell of a lot. And that culminates into the confidence and presence. I don't want to make this go too long. Hope I said some interesting things. And the other thing was about food and fasting, which I guess I'll make its own video now because it's getting too long. But eating habits is also an integral piece. So anyway, hope that was interesting. If anyone watches this and there are parts of that which were interesting, but maybe I didn't go into deep enough, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to feel free to leave a comment, and I'll look at it and I'll see if I can touch on it deeper, and orient sort of how to go about speaking about these things, because I'm still finding my voice in all this. I'm new to this, and it could be very helpful if you have any sort of like, hey, this was interesting, but you kind of, you weaned off saying more about it or whatever. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Take it easy. Ponder, reflect, be still. That's the only way to relieve frustrations.